Okay, so let's look at regression and specifically the correlation coefficient. The correlation coefficient is a number between -1 and 1 that measures the direction and strength of a linear association. The scatter plot can't be curved, and the scatter plot can't include outliers. Okay, well, all our scatter plots that we're going to look at in these four examples, none of them are curved, they're all linear, and none really include any outliers. Okay, so let's look at this. So here we have a positive slope to our data. Remember when we talked about association, we talked about positive slopes going up from left to right. This would be positive. So our correlation coefficient would be positive. This number is positive. Here, the data looks also positive, positive slope going up from left to right. So our correlation coefficient is also positive. But here we could fit a line in this data kind of going like this, down from left to right. So it'll be a negative correlation coefficient because we're going down from left to right. So here our data is pretty tightly bunched together. Before, when we talked about association, this would probably be a strong association. Since it's a strong association, or our correlation coefficient is going to be closer to 1. 0.89 is close to 1, right? But let's look at this one. Here, our data points are, they're a little more kind of not as bunched together, a little more separated. It looks a little more like a cloud. We still know that it's going to be positive and it still looks linear, but it's not as tightly bunched together than this scatter plot. So here, our correlation coefficient is not going to be as close to 1. 0.61 is a little further away from 1, right? Because the closer we get to the 1, like if we had a correlation coefficient of 1, this would just be a complete straight line here. But the further we get away from a complete straight line, the further we get away from 1. So let's look at these two examples now. This example, we could, put a line. Let's do it like this. Say something like that. So we know it's going to be a negative slope, right? So we have a negative number here. And the data is really bunched out, really cloud-like. It's not all bunched together in a straight line. So this is going to be further away from -1, because the closer we get to -1, if it's a negative slope, would be the closer to all bunched together in a straight line. Okay, so let's look at our last example here. Well, once again, we have a negative slope right here. So we're going to have a negative sign in our correlation coefficient. And here, the data is a little more tightly packed together than it was in this example right here, right? It's a little more of a straight line here. And my line doesn't look perfect right here. Let's see if I can move it up. Well, I can't exactly. But you see the line's going basically right through it. So here, our correlation coefficient is going to be a little closer to -1 because the data is more tightly packed together. Here, it's less tightly packed together, looks a little more cloud-like, so it's going to be a little further away from -1.